Okay. So what is the difference between function declaration and function definition? Function declaration does not contain body. Function definition contains body of the function. Okay, no? Right. And one more important pointer, the type of parameter listed, the type of parameters listed in function declaration and the type of parameter listed in function definition should be matched. Okay. So these are the three elements of user defined functions. Okay. Right. I will give one example. For suppose I want to create one function. Okay. I want to create one function. So my function name is add. So okay, my function name is what here? Add. I want to create one function. That function name is add. So this add function is used to perform addition of two numbers. Okay, this add function is used to perform addition of two numbers. Okay. Right. So listen. So definition. First we have to understand the definition. So what is function? Function is a block of statements. Function is a block of statements will have identity. Here function name is the identity. Okay. Function is a block of statements will have identity and it is taking inputs. Function is taking what? It is taking inputs. Function is taking inputs and after taking input it will process the input. Okay, processing inputs, processing that input. After processing the input, listen, function is taking input, okay, technically called as parameters or arguments. Parameters or arguments. Okay, and process that input. After processing the input, it will produce the output. Okay, so function is taking inputs, technically called as arguments. Okay, now it is taking input and processing that input. After processing the input, it will give output. Okay, right. Now I want to create one function add. So to perform addition operation, how many values we need to pass? How many input values we need to pass? Minimum 2 values. Okay, so minimum 2 values we need to pass. Then only it is possible to perform addition operation. Okay, right. So here how many input values it is taking? 2 input values. So to store 2 input values, how many parameters required here? How many arguments required here? 2 parameters. One is x, comma y. Okay. So clear? Add function is taking 2 values. The first value is stored in x variable and the second value will be assigned to y variable. Okay, right. And here we have to write logic of the function. So here I am declaring third variable z. Okay, here I am writing logic of the function x plus y. Okay, I am adding those two numbers. Okay, and the result assigns to z variable. Okay, next I want to return z value. Okay, here what is the value of z? For suppose, okay, so okay, function definition completed. Now when this function will be executed, so whenever we are calling this function, then only the statements in that function get executed. Okay, so to execute that function we have to call that function. Okay, here I am calling function. What is the name of the function? Add. So function name is add. So is it necessary to pass any arguments, any parameters? Yes. So here we need to pass 2 values, 2 arguments, 10, 20. Okay. So here I am calling add function. Here I am calling add function by passing how many values as arguments? 2 values. So one is 10, the other one is 20. So here 10 will be received by x variable 20 will be received by y variable. Okay, 10 which is stored in x variable, 20 which is stored in y variable. Here you should remember one point. So from where we have to call function? So we can call a function from anywhere in our program. So but here user defined functions are called from main function. User defined functions are called from main function. Okay. So whenever execution control encounters function call statement, whenever execution control encounters function call statement, so execution control is directly transferred to function definition. Okay. So execution control is directly transferred to function definition, and it will execute the statements in that function. After executing all the statements in that function, the execution control is returned to main program. Okay. So whenever execution control encounters function call, execution control is directly transferred to function definition and execute all the statements in that function. After executing all the statements, then the control is transferred to main program. Okay, so we have to remember that point. Right, next here, what I am doing here, I am calling add function by passing two values as arguments. So 10 will be received by x variable and the next argument will be received by y variable. Okay, so what is the value of x here? What is the value of x variable? 10. What is the value of y variable? 20. Okay, so 10 plus 20, 30 assigns to z. So what is the value of z here? 30. Okay, so 30 is returned to calling function. Okay, right. And one more pointer. Here these parameters are called formal parameters or formal arguments. These parameters are called formal parameters or formal arguments. And these parameters are called, so in function call, the parameters are called actual parameters. Okay, these are actual parameters. Actual parameters or actual arguments. Actual parameters or actual arguments. Next, these parameters are called what? Formal parameters or formal arguments. Okay, formal parameters or formal arguments. So clear? Okay, and two more points we should understand. So if the number of actual parameters are less than, or the number of actual parameters are greater than or more than the number of formal parameters, what happens? The excess parameter is ignored. Okay, suppose here I am, while calling add function, I am passing three values as arguments, 10, 20, 30. So in this situation, so 10 is received by x variable, 20 is stored in y variable. So what about 30? So 30 will be ignored. Clear? If actual parameters are more than, actual number of actual parameters are more than number of formal parameters, the excess parameter is ignored. Okay, that is one case. Next, for suppose while calling add function, I am passing only one value as argument. Okay, so here 10 will be stored into x variable. Okay, so what about y? What about y here? Okay, if number of actual parameters, okay, if actual parameters are less than formal parameters, so the remaining parameter will be initialized to garbage value. Okay, na? So garbage value is stored in y variable. Garbage value means unknown value. Okay, na? So clear, 2 points. If actual parameters are more than formal parameters, the excess parameter is ignored. Next point, if actual parameters are less than formal parameters, the remaining parameters will be initialized to garbage value. Garbage value will be stored in y variable. Garbage value means what? Unknown value. Okay, so clear. So this is about elements of user defined functions. Okay, so here in function declaration, the parameters should be separated by commas. Okay, the parameters should be separated by commas. Okay, and the type of, so here we have to declare. Okay, we have to declare add function. Okay, so here what it returns? 30. So 30 means here we have to take return type as int. Okay, next step, we have to declare function also. Int add int x comma int y. Here my point is the type of parameters in function declaration and function definition should be matched. Okay, so clear. So this is about user defined function. How to create user defined function. Okay, elements of user defined function. So there are 3 elements: function definition, function call, function declaration. Okay, so function definition consists of 6 elements: return type, function name, parameter list, opening brace, closing brace, local variables declaration, statement 1, statement 2, statement n, function statements, return statement. Okay, first 3 elements are grouped as function header. The first line is called as function header and the remaining 3 elements are grouped as function body. Okay, so function returns value. Okay, so clear. Return type. So what is return type? Return type specify the type of value that function returns to calling function. Here this function add function returns which type of value? Integer value. Okay, so 30 return to calling function. Okay, so clear. Suppose if the return type is not specified here, what is the default return type? Int. Okay, next if the function does not return any value, then here we have to take the return type as void. So void is the return type, it does not return any value from called function to calling function. Okay, next parameter list. So parameter, next function name. So function name can be any name, but we should follow the rules. Okay, so whatever rules we should follow for constructing variable, the same rules we should follow for constructing function name also. Okay, next parameter list is used to declare number of variables and types of variables, and these variables are used to receive the data from calling function. Okay, and here these parameters are called formal parameters or formal arguments. Okay, next local variable declaration contains local variables. These variables are used or these variables can be accessed only within that function. Okay, so function statements, here we can write the logic. So return statement can return a value to calling function. Okay, next function call. So function can be called by using function name followed by list of parameters enclosed within the parenthesis and with a semicolon. Okay, here these parameters are called actual parameters or actual arguments. Next function declaration. So every function must be declared before that is used in a program. Okay, this is the syntax of function declaration. So function declaration does not contain body, function definition contains body. Okay, so clear? Thank you.